You're giving a pretty high-profile speech tomorrow in Phoenix on immigration. I'd love for you to just preview what you plan to talk about.
Well, we have a tremendous crowd. This started off as a rather small group of people, about 500 or so in a ballroom, the Biltmore. And all of a sudden, we started getting calls from the hotel. They don't know what they're going to do because it doesn't hold much more than that. And thousands of people were calling in from all over Arizona and all over Phoenix. They all wanted to be there. And it's turning out to be many thousands of people. And I think they just landed the convention center, which is a big convention center. And I hear that's now packed. So it looks like thousands and thousands of people are going to be there.
What's your message going to be for them? What's your message for them, the country, and really the world at this point going to be about immigration? What will your message be?
Well, that we have to stop illegal immigration. The country is being decimated by it. Tremendous amounts of problems are happening because of it. Tremendous numbers of people agree with me. I mean, you see what's happening with the polls. I guess another one just came out, The Economist, where it's number one, and we're having other ones coming out that's all saying number one. And this is one issue. I mean, I'm the biggest on trade. I'm the biggest on jobs, but this has become a very big issue, immigration and illegal immigration. And we're going to be talking about it at length. I'm going to be making a speech about it. And there are a lot of people that agree with what I'm saying. We have to stop it. Our country, we have no borders. We have no control. We have no, you look at the safety, you look at the people that are coming in my opinion, forced in by other governments. But in the one case, and I made it, I thought, very clear in my speech, because as you know, I have great relationships with the Mexican people. I have many Mexican people working for me. I deal with Mexicans. I sell apartments to Mexicans, apartments by many. And I will tell you, I have great respect for Mexico, but the problem is their country is smarter. Their leaders are a lot sharper, more cunning than our leaders, and it just is never going to stop. I mean, we're being outdealt by everybody, and what is happening and what I've been saying, and I think I've been very clear on it, but people don't understand it, is that the Mexican government is sending in people that they don't want, people that are criminals, people that they don't want to take care of for the next 20 years. They send them across the border. They bring them across the border. We put them in jails. We put them in hospitals. We take care of them. Some of these are rough customers, and you see that in San Francisco.
You've obviously...
We brought somebody back, Mark. We brought somebody back 5 times, and they kept pushing him back to us. And he ultimately killed Magnificent Kate, this incredible young woman.
You've obviously...
Yes.
I'm sorry. You talk a lot about this issue, and I know you've taken a lot of heat this week. Do you plan to say anything tomorrow that might be seen as by your critics as being something that's seeking reconciliation or accommodation, or do you plan to continue to say what you've been saying?
All I can do is talk the truth. I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I've dealt with politicians all my life. They're all talk. They're no action. Nothing ever gets done. You hear about these sanctuary cities. You hear about things that most people have never even heard of. You look at what happened in San Francisco. I hear all over Texas they have sanctuary cities, which I just found out 2 or 3 days ago. Nobody knew that. You hear things that are inconceivable. So this isn't a question about what I'm going to say. It's a question of finding an answer to it. And one of the things we have to do is we have to stop illegals from coming across the border. We have to get the criminal element that we have in this country. We have to get them out, and we have to get them out fast and bring them back to where they came from, whether it's Mexico or other places. And one of the things that's happening, and it's been reported on by Homeland Security and others, Mark, is that we have people coming in through the southern border from the Middle East. And that's not a good thing, because we don't know where they're coming from, and we don't know why they're coming.
Mr. Trump, you faced a lot of criticism, a lot of pressure in some ways this week. Have you made any mistakes this week in what you've said or haven't said in response to your critics?
Well, I actually think I've been so misquoted. When you read my speech, you know, it's interesting, Mark, I got rave reviews on that speech, and you even said very good things about it. But I got rave reviews, and then 5 days later, people brought this subject up. And it started with Univision, which, frankly, is controlled by the Mexican government. And I actually think the Mexican government is more concerned with me. And, again, I respect Mexico, and I respect the people that run it. They're much smarter than our people. That's the problem. I mean, where I'm angry is that our leaders are so inept and our negotiators are so inept, whether it's the Iran deal, whether it's deals or trade deals with China, or whether it's dealing with Mexico and trade or the border. So we have a lot of problems. So if you look at my speech, when I announced that I was running for the presidency, and you go word for word into that speech, and people have done it, the fair people, and they said, wow, it's absolutely, I'm saying, it said, Mexico sends. That's what I'm saying. Mexico is sending. If you look at what Castro did, he sent many, many people to the United States. They call it the boat lift, the Mariel boat lift.
I understand you feel you've been mischaracterized in your announcement speech, but just this last week, when there's been so much criticism, and again, you faced a fair amount of incoming, have you, in your view, made any mistakes about what you've said or what you haven't said?
I think that what I said was purposely misinterpreted by some of the media. Some of the media,
I'm talking
not
about
at
this
all.
week, though. I'm talking about this week. Have you made any mistakes? Not in your announcement speech. This week.
I don't know. What have you tell me? Have I made any mistakes? I don't know. I'm talking about illegal immigration. Perhaps, maybe I could have been more clear. Maybe I couldn't have been. I don't think there was mistakes made. I think that it's a very vital subject. I can say this, Mark, if I didn't bring it up, it wouldn't be discussed at all right now. I have been given credit even by my so-called opponents and enemies, and I certainly have some enemies out there, but I've been given a lot of credit for bringing this issue to the forefront. And right after I brought it up, you had the killing in San Francisco, and then you had Mr. Shaw and Mrs. Shaw's beautiful son who is going to college as a quarterback and tremendous life ahead of him and tremendous potential, and he was shot down ruthlessly by a person that came into the country illegally, and you have many other people where that's happened. So I just, look, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've made a lot of money dealing with politicians. Believe me, they're easy. But this is an issue that's very important. I'm very proud to have brought it up, and I'm very proud that people are talking about it. Bill O'Reilly said the other day that if Trump didn't bring this up, nobody would even be talking about it right now.
So you say you're an outsider. You are running as a Republican, and there is a huge debate, as you know, some public, some private within the party now. What do we do about Trump? How do we control Trump? How do we keep him out of the debates? How do we keep him from ruining the image of the party? What do you say to Republican strategists and politicians who are having that debate now?
Well, it's a long way from 4 or 5 weeks ago when they thought, well, Trump, how will he do? I've gone to number one in many of the polls, most of the polls actually now, and one came out the other day where I'm number one. North Carolina, you probably saw that one where I'm well into number one by quite a bit. And a lot of people are agreeing with what I'm saying. Hey, look, I'm saying that the politicians will never get us, they'll never take this country to where it has to be. And I know them better than anybody knows them. And you understand that I've been dealing with them for all of my professional career. And they will never take us to the promised land. So, I don't know. I have been a Republican. I get along with everybody. I've helped people on both sides. I think I get along very well with the other side, and I would if I were president. I'd make great trade deals. I'd be very strong on the border and strong on illegal immigration. But I think there's a shock because, as somebody said that you know very well, but I won't use the name because I don't want to potentially embarrass anybody, but they've said they've never seen anything like this because we have caught the imagination of the public. And I think caught it very well. I think part of that is because of my success. If I were not a very successful person, and you'll see how successful I am next week when I announce my financials because they're far greater than people even thought. But if I were not, and with tremendous, iconic, great assets and a tremendous amount of success. I don't say that in a braggadocious way, Mark. I say it because that's what the country, that's the kind of thinking that the country needs. So we can't continue to be taken advantage of by China, Japan, and everybody else.
So should Republican strategists stop strategizing about how to control you?
I think this. I think I am the only one that can beat Hillary Clinton, and I think that I will get the Hispanic vote. I will win the Hispanic vote because I'll be able to keep jobs and create jobs. I will take jobs away from China. I'll take jobs away from lots of other countries that are stealing our jobs and stealing our industry and taking our money. And I will do that. And the Mexicans love Trump. They got a wrong message, a false message, and the Hispanics love Trump. And I will win the Hispanic vote. I will win that vote, and nobody else on the Republican side will. I will take it away from Hillary because I will be able to create jobs and put our country back where it belongs.
Has there been any criticism this week from any quarter that stung you personally?
Well, I mean, I heard that I lost ESPN. And ESPN, you know what it was? ESPN leaving Trump. It was a golf outing for 120 golfers. Then I heard I lost NASCAR. You know what that was? A banquet, a Trump National Doral. A banquet for, people call me, oh, you lost NASCAR, like it was a big deal. It was a banquet. By the way, I've already rented it, and I kept their deposit, which was very substantial. Same thing with ESPN. Trump National Golf Club in Los Angeles by the Pacific, on the Pacific Ocean. They were going to have their event. They moved it. I've already booked it. We booked it with somebody else.
So it sounds like...
But if you read the paper, no, just to show you how false reporting is, if you read the paper, it's like catastrophic. It sounds big. Trump loses ESPN. It's a golf outing. Trump loses NASCAR. It was a banquet.
Right. So it doesn't sound like those hurt your feelings. So I'll ask again, had there been any criticism this week, not necessarily business deals, any criticism that's hurt you personally?
No, because I'm a big boy and I understand. And, your world of politics is a very crooked world. I used to think that Manhattan real estate was tough and the people were tough, but politicians are tough. But I find that probably the guys in Manhattan are more honest. So I understand what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a lot of people that are fine, but I'm dealing with a lot of people that are not honorable people and not good people. And that's why you're misquoted with statements. When you go back and read the statements, you'll see what I said, and you'll understand that it's correct. And I think you do understand.
Couple more questions. You've got some pretty smart kids. What advice have they given you this week about how to handle this?
Well, I think I have children that have great respect for their father. They agree with what their father's doing. I got a call early this morning from Ivanka, say, Dad, you're number one in all these polls. What's going on? That's great. I said, what, are you surprised? I mean, look, I had the most successful business book, The Art of the Deal. I built a great company. I had a show called The Apprentice. And by the way, NBC is angry at me not because of my talk of the border or not because of my talk on illegal immigration. They're angry because they renewed The Apprentice and I'm not doing it. Believe me, that's the reason they're angry. I said I'm running for president. They wanted me to do this. They wanted me to do The Apprentice, a tremendous success. So now they have The Apprentice and they don't know what to do because there's been 15 copies of The Apprentice and every one of them failed. And that's why NBC is angry at me, not because of inclusion. I mean, they have Brian Williams and they have other people that I won't even mention at NBC. They're not worried about inclusion. They're angry at me because I wouldn't do The Apprentice. And they came to my office 2 weeks before, the top people at Comcast and NBC, begging me to do The Apprentice, and I said, no, I'm running for president. I can't do. As you know, you're not allowed to do them both because of equal time.
Even in the polls, the state and national polls where you're first, you're still basically in the teens for the most part. In a traditional year, the front runners are more like 25, 30, 35. Do you think you can grow to that level if you continue to draw support?
Oh, I think so. I think that we're very deep. But if you look at that North Carolina poll, your level of popularity, back with the negatives compared to the positives is a tremendous positive. That's really shifted, Mark. They used to say, oh, gee, but he has a high negative rating. He did well, but he's got a high negative. I don't have that anymore. A lot of people have shifted over, and that's the big story. And only dishonest people are reporting otherwise. I mean, take a look at the North Carolina poll, which is done by a great pollster, and the lead is very substantial in first place. But the level of like and dislike has totally reversed. And I'm sure you've noticed that, actually.
Almost every Republican presidential candidate has criticized you at this point over your comments on immigration. Ted Cruz has not. Do you have respect for the people in the field? You've criticized them back. Do you have respect still for the other Republicans?
I have respect for some. I have great respect for the fact that Ted Cruz stood up and said very positive. I mean, he agreed with me. I mean, he was very positive, and he was not wavering. He felt very strongly that what I was saying was true. I have a great respect for that. He was strong. Some of them are just following polls. I don't have a pollster. I have a lot of money, and I could hire 100 pollsters. I don't have a pollster. I do with what's right. Other people, like Hillary and all these people, they have pollsters all over the place, and they won't even speak until their pollster tells them what to do. That's not what a president should be.
Besides Ted Cruz, which of the other candidates do you still respect?
Well, I don't want to get into it. I think it would be inappropriate to get into it. But I also respected the fact that Ben Carson came out in favor. He likewise, like Ted, he came out and strongly supported also. So I do respect that. And look, I do respect some of them, and some of them I don't think are qualified or would be very good at being president.
Are you going to use notes or speech text tomorrow in your speech?
Well, Well, I was watching one of the pundits, and I do speak. I'm able to speak. I have a very strong memory, very great memory. I've been told that by many people for a long period of time. I went to the Wharton School of Finance, a great student, and all of that stuff. And they said, I've totally changed on him. He spoke for over an hour without a note, and almost nobody can do that. I may have some notes. I wouldn't do when you read a speech, it's not from the heart. It's not the same. Does that make any sense? It's really not from the heart. Easier to do, much easier to read a speech, but I always find that the audience, one of the reasons I get the biggest crowds, I get the biggest standing ovations. You know that because you've been there. I just think you have to speak from the heart. And I don't want a teleprompter, and I don't want to really read a speech. Much easier to do, believe me, but I don't want to do it that way.
Last two questions. One, after the events of this week where you've taken so much criticism, but your poll numbers seem to have gone up, are you more or less likely in the last week to be the next president of the United States?
I think much more likely, because I didn't expect to be in this position from the polling standpoint this early. Look, I've had a lot of wins in my life. I believe in winning. I'm very good at winning. But I didn't expect to be this high this early.
And there's no doubt.
So
and there's no doubt.
Say more. I think you would say, Mark, excuse me, I think you would say more likely also.
And so there's no doubt that in your mind, that this controversy over your immigration statements has helped your chances of being the nominee and the president. No doubt.
I really don't know if it's helped or not, but I would say this, that certainly I'm number one in the polls, and, it probably hasn't hurt. People they're coming tomorrow in Arizona. Tonight I'm making a speech in California. It's totally sold out. It's like you can't get tickets for a long time. It was like 10 minutes after they announced it. In Chicago, I made a speech for the City Club. They were sold out in 8 minutes, and they've never had it. It set a record. They turned away 5,000 people.
Right,
so, something's happening, and I think it's a very positive thing. Hey, look, it's very simple. I don't need this. I love what I'm doing. I love my business and all of that, but I want to make our country great again. I have a chance to really do something special. We have to put our country back on track. That's what I do. I make things better. I fix things. I make things really, really successful. And I think you'll be impressed when you see my, statement that everybody said, oh, he wouldn't file his form. Well, I did that 2 weeks ago. He wouldn't announce. Well, I did that 3 weeks ago. And then he said, oh, he will never file his financials. I'm entitled to 45-day extensions, 2 45-day extensions, and I'm not looking for any extension. In fact, I'm going to try and get it in early, although it's very cumbersome and complex because of the extent of it. But we're going to get it in early. Other guys have not filed their financials, and they make about $2.
Last question. You've been a presidential candidate now for just a few weeks. You've had a full life before. Tell me one thing you've learned that you did not know before about what it's like to run for president.
Well, I think it's the intensity. I've been, very much a public figure for a long time, and I don't even know why, but for some reason, the press has always followed me, and sometimes very positively. Financially, been very positive. The financial press has been very positive. I think it's the level of intensity. I've never seen anything like it, where I make a speech or I make a statement, and it's in 4,233 stories. Now, the world has changed. In the old days, you'd have a couple of networks, and you'd have a couple of reporters, and today you have thousands and thousands and thousands of stories being written instantaneously with the Internet and all of the other things. So, but I would say the tremendous amount of intensity, it really is intense. But it's very exhilarating, and especially when you have a goal. And my goal is to make America great again. I have a goal of changing this country. We're going in the wrong direction. People want leadership in this country, and they want to stop being ripped off by every single country that we deal with. And that's what's happening. And we're not going to be a great nation very much longer. And most people would say we're really not a great nation right now. We're a laughingstock.